Hello, YouTube divers. This is WaterEye122, and I want to welcome you all to another episode of Bands of the Alphabet. Last time we talked about my favorite band that starts with the letter R, and today we're moving on to the letter S. Now, this one was probably the letter that I've been looking forward to the most, because this letter has so many phenomenal bands to offer. And it was easy for me to choose my favorite band plus the 3 honorable mentions. Probably the easiest one I've done so far. So let's get into it, shall we? So taking my favorite band that starts with the letter S is none other than Slayer! Slayer. One of the big four of thrash metal. And yeah, Slayer. What more can I say? I mean, Slayer is just frickin' Slayer. They are definitely the heaviest out of the 4 bands that are in the big 4. They are the most graphic. They are one of the most influential metal bands in the big 4. I think aside from Metallica, Slayer is the most influential. Although I could be wrong. But Slayer is another one of my favorite bands of all time. Another one of my top 10. They're an amazing band, and my favorite album from them is, of course, the 1986 album Rain and Blood. One of my favorite albums of all time. I talk a little bit about Rain and Blood on both my top 10 album rankings and my Slayer album rankings that I've done on Magic Metal Mondays, episodes 4 and 5, so you could go check that out. And of course, when I talked about this album on those 2 videos, I said that Raining Blood, one of the best album closures ever, and if I didn't mention it already, it is my favorite Slayer song. It's the song that got me into Slayer, it's the song that got me into hardcore thrash metal. Really, it's a freaking classic. Yeah, it is a little bit overplayed, but I think it's one of those songs where it deserves to be overplayed, because it is such a freaking amazing song. I mean, thrash metal fans and Slayer fans alike, you know what I'm talking about. Of course, the lineup on here is obviously everybody's favorite Slayer lineup. Tom Araya on vocals and bass, Jeff Hanneman and Kerry King on guitars, and of course, Dave, the godfather of the double bass pedal, Lombardo, on the drums. Of course, Lombardo is now playing with Suicidal Tendencies. And Jeff Hanneman, rest in peace, man. And of course, and I think only Kerry King and Tom Araya are left in Slayer. Unfortunately, Slayer doesn't make any more albums. They kind of retired. But who knows if they might get back together. Pop your opinion on whether or not Slayer will get back together in the comments. And please do an explanation on why you think that, but who knows. So with that said, Slayer takes my favorite band that starts with the letter S. What more can I say? So let's move on to the honorable mentions. Now, when it comes to the honorable mentions, I already had 3 bands that I was like, okay, these are definitely honorable mentions. But the question was, which bands, how would I put them in the order? Because I love all 3 of these bands. So let's get into it. So the first honorable mention that I have is Sabotage. I've talked about Sabotage when I did their album rankings on episode 18 of Magic Metal Mondays. You could go check that out on yourself. There is a Magic Metal Mondays playlist on my channel. You can scroll through that, and the Sabotage ranking will be down near the bottom, because, tend to put them in chronological order here, so there you go. So, Sabotage, I started getting into them last month, and they have not disappointed. Yeah, there are some stuff that I will come back and revisit time and time again. But really, Sabotage is a freaking amazing band. And as I said on my Sabotage video that I did last month, where I ranked all their albums, I said Sabotage is one of the most underrated metal bands ever. And that definitely lives up to its name, because Sabotage put out some freaking good stuff. Like, I basically say everything that they've done, like, I love Power of the Night. I love Hall of Mountain King, which is my favorite Sabotage album. Gutter Ballet and Edge of Thorns, and even frickin' Streets and the Fight for the Rock and Sirens and Dead Winter Dead and Handful of Rain, all of those albums. And like I said, Sabotage never released a frickin' bad album, so there you go. So if you want more of my opinions on what I think about Sabotage's discography, you could go check. Like I said, you could go check out my previous video that I did about Sabotage, and I talk a little bit more about it there. So there you go. So now we're moving on to my second honorable mention. That goes to the Scorpions, another amazing German band. This was really the first German band that I got into, and for a while they were my favorite German band. That is, until Halloween came into my life. But still, the Scorpions are a freaking amazing band. I mean, the glam metal community absolutely adores them for the most part. I wouldn't really consider the Scorpions to be in the glam metal movement. I mean, all their 80s albums were kind of going in that direction. But their albums that they did in the 70s were freaking killer. My favorite Scorpions album is, of course, the 1984 album, Love at First Sting. Mainly because it has Rock You Like a Hurricane, which got me into the Scorpions and that type of heavy music in general. Then, of course, Still Loving You, great ballad. So, yeah, with that said, Scorpions, put them here at the honorable mentions because, you know, if you would have asked me like 5 years ago, I probably would have had the Scorpions right here. But so they're an honorable mention at this point. So there you go. Moving on, and the final honorable mention, you got Soundgarden. Yes, Soundgarden. Mainly the Chris Cornell band that everybody loves. Well, if you're a fan of the Seattle grunge movement. Soundgarden is probably my second or third favorite band from the Seattle grunge movement, with Alice in Chains, Nirvana, Soundgarden, and Pearl Jam. Soundgarden is a really, really strong band. I mean, the two albums that they had, Bad Motorfinger and Super Unknown, both of those albums are freaking killer. And I even like Down on the Upside, them, for crying out loud. So there you go. Their third, fourth, and fifth albums to me are absolutely amazing. So I might make a Soundgarden ranking one day. Who knows? But yeah, rest in peace, Chris Cornell. Yeah, what more can I say? If you're someone who absolutely loved the grunge movement, the Seattle grunge movement, then Soundgarden, you would know Soundgarden, and you would know how amazing they are. So there you go. So with that said, that concludes this edition of Bands of the Alphabet. Thank you so much for watching, my fellow YouTube divers. This is WaterDive 122 signing out, ready to dive into more fun on YouTube. Thanks for watching.